Breonna Taylor was a 26-year-old black medical technician who was shot and killed in her Louisville, Kentucky apartment on March 13, 2020, just around midnight, after police officers forced their way in using a battering ram. Taylor and Kenneth Walker were peacefully sleeping in their apartment when all of a sudden Walker heard somebody breaking and entering. Scared and terrified, he shot one warning shot with his lawfully owned revolver, striking Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly in the leg. In response, Mattingly and the other policemen, Miles Cosgrove and Brett Hawkinson, fired 32 rounds in the dark, shooting and striking Taylor 6 times. According to the New York Times, Louisville police were looking into Taylor's ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, who no longer even lived in that home and was actually already in custody, when they required a court-approved no-knock warrant to search the apartment for evidence of a narcotic trafficking. Before the raid, the orders were amended to knock and announce, according to the reports. Although the involved cops claimed that they followed the warrant, Walker claimed that he didn't hear any announcement. After this incident, the 3 cops were given administrative leave while an investigation was conducted. Walker was actually arrested on charges of trying to kill a police officer, and the apartment didn't even contain any drugs. And yet, that wasn't even the start of the nationwide protest. Instead, it was when a black man named George Floyd became a victim of the same crime that killed Breonna Taylor. Her case didn't gather nearly as much attention as his did. In this presentation, we will learn more about Black women's experience in the Black Lives Matter movement. We will cover 3 different points as we learn why Black women's experience in the Black Lives Matter movement matters. First, we will define what the Black Lives Matter movement is and what it looks like. Second, we will take a look at how and why Black women are overlooked in this matter. And finally, we will look at the dangers that come with excluding and turning a blind eye to Black women in the social justice movements like the Black Lives Matter movement. So let's begin with what social justice is and the Black Lives Matter movement. According to the National Association of Social Workers, titled Justice and Human Rights, published on its website, socialworkers.org, in 2008, social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Social workers aim to open the doors and access opportunity for everyone, particularly those in the greatest need. The Black Lives Matter movement is one of many social justice movements. It is an international social justice movement condemning the unjust killings of Black people by police. Statistics show that Black people are far more likely to be killed by the police than white people are. Black Lives Matter aimed to shed light on police brutality. It has become a movement to enunciate the fact that laws, policies, and procedures must be just as tight and strict in dealing with Black lives as it is dealing with white lives, because Black lives matter too. This social justice movement does not just refer to the treatment of Black people by law enforcement, but it also brings to light that Black lives matter less in healthcare settings, schools, and even in property values of Black communities. Now that we have established what social justice is and what the Black Lives Matter movement is, let's examine how Black women are overlooked in these movements. The Black Lives Matter movement was initially named this because people believe that Black lives matter less than white lives, but the blatant and persistent lack of awareness of Black female victims raises the question on whether this is for all Black lives or just Black male lives. So it really should just be called Black male lives matter too. According to the Underground Railroad History Project titled Black Lives Matter or Black Men Matter, Gender and the Movement for Freedom, published on its website undergroundrailroadhistory.org on August 6, 2020, when the Black woman gives birth, they are 3 to 4 times more likely to die than white people. When Black women get paid, they are given just 63 cents compared to every non-white man's dollar. And when Black women are victims of sexual assault, only 1 in 15 come forward and report. Yet, despite these statistics, the troubles of Black women still go unrecognized and undiscussed, even within the movement itself. Black women are routinely pressured into the stereotype of the superwoman due to both prejudice of racial and gender. Although this may seem like a good interpretation, the misconception that Black women have a higher pain threshold is perpetrated, which is damaging. It leads to a culture where Black women are not just victims of police brutality, sexual abuse, systematic racism, and gender discrimination, but even of the healthcare business, because they are only seen as strong, self-sacrificing, rather than vulnerable and emotional. The gaps between overall health and pregnancy-related fatalities for Black women and white women are significant, and clinicians ultimately utilize that story to deny the necessary care for them. According to Stuart Coles, lead researcher of the study published by the American Psychological Association titled Intersectional Invisibility Revisited, How Group Prototypes Lead to the Erasure and Exclusion of Black Women, published on its website psychnet.appa.org on September 24, 2019, people necessarily do not think of Black women as Black people, but because people think of Black women similar to how they think of Black men. As a result, a one-size-fits-all approach to anti-Black racism leaves Black women concerns overlooked. Finally, let's look at the dangers of Black women's intersectional invisibility and how it can create a harmful situation when their experiences of both racism and sexism goes unappreciated by large movements. By continuing to spread the discrimination which Black women are already victim to, it is not only further perpetrating the harmful stereotype inflicted on Black women during slavery, but it establishes an unproductive divide between members of the community that it is fighting for. The exclusion of Black women puts them in greater harm. Being Black and female in America entails being shunned, silenced, and occasionally erased. Without the contributions, sacrifices, and blood, the very fabric of history would be quite different for all of us. Due to the fact of the combination of white supremacy and patriarchy, Black women are far more frequently left overworked, tired, and unrepresented in historical records. So in conclusion, there is no doubt that George Floyd, a man among many other Black men, are the victims of a society that doesn't value the lives of Black men. Police are just too quick to overlook their deaths and too quick to pull that trigger on a routine situation. But unfortunately, with all the focus on high-profile cases of Black men, the specifics around the dangers of Black women are lost in all the Black Lives Matter movement, which is unfortunate and, as discussed present, a danger to the future of Black women in America. Only when we truly see the gender difference and provide the same attention to the issue of Black women within the Black Lives Matter movement will we start to see a society that understands and makes changes to make lives better for Black women specifically.